tricks here that I'm not going to cover. Basically, I needed a floating point hardware coprocessor, and the main CPU is compiling code on the fly for this coprocessor in order to further reduce the hardware usage in the FPGA. I'm not going to explain a lot into the details, but basically you have several floating point pipelines and a very low-level instruction set which says put that into the pipeline and fetch that from the pipeline. And the compiler needs then to schedule all the pipeline by itself. And by doing that, first you will remove the need for a scheduler inside the hardware because all the scheduling is done statically in the instructions. And also the compiler is able to extract a lot of parallelism from the computation which need to be done. And this gets a very fast system. On real cases, with an FPGA running at 100 megahertz, it does 75 million floating point operations per second, and uses, on this FPGA, which is Virtex 425, it takes approximately like 20% of the FPGA surface. So it's not too bad. Now I will explain a little bit. I will just present a little bit some software that you could run on the CPU. There has been a port of Linux, which is made by Takeshi Matsuya from Keio University, mostly. That was a nice contribution. And now the board is now supporting Linux. It's only the no-MMU port of Linux, because so far the CPU doesn't have a memory management unit. That could be a very nice contribution to design an MMU for MICO32. You also have the GNODE-FX GUI toolkit. It's a very embedded toolkit. It doesn't require the C library. It has also been ported on the Milchemist system, so you have windowing, mouse, all you want in order to make a very friendly system in the end. So now let's cover some details about how you could develop FPGAs yourself. First, the development board. Most of the development were done with the Xilinx ML401 board, which is pretty feature-rich. I have brought one here. So this board has a VGA output. It has some serial port for debugging. It has some USB, a CF card reader, LCD screen, DDR SDRAM, audio. I think that's all, basically. Oh, it has Ethernet as well, gigabit Ethernet. And it has a Virtex 4 FPGA. It's not a very big FPGA, but you can still do some nice stuff with it, and it's affordable. Now it's obsolete, unfortunately, but when it was released, it costed $500 only, so it's pretty okay for such a big board. For the software, first you need a lot of simulation, Verilog simulation. The complete system was written in Verilog HDL, and you need definitely simulations on this system. First, to explore the cache size that I have shown, you needed simulations, because you will not increase the cache size as you want in the hardware. And also for debugging, because debugging such a complex system is very complicated. And if you are not able to see what's happening inside the design, you can just forget about debugging anything, because you will just put into the FPGA, it will not work, and then you just cannot guess what's going wrong in your design if you don't have a simulator and if you're not able to pick inside your design. And even sometimes in the most aggressive bugs, post-process the result of the simulation to figure out where the bug is with some script, Perl, or anything. So the good news for you is that there are 3 simulators. There are Icarus Verilog that I used a lot, GPLC there, and there is also Verilator. Verilator is very innovative because it's actually compiling Verilog code for your CPU. So it gets you a very fast simulator. The problem is that it has a lot of bugs. So I didn't use this one much because it took me too much time to figure out if the bug was in my design or in the simulator. But Icarus Verilog and GPLC there are pretty reliable. They're very light. They can run without a hitch on small laptops like this one. So you can really debug your Verilog code wherever you are. Try to do the same with the big simulators, which are very heavy. They take gigabytes of hard disk. And they have also this very inconvenient FlexNet license system, which requires you to connect to a VPN and then to a license server. And fortunately, I didn't need any of the simulators. I did everything with the free ones, which is good. For the logic synthesis, I have worked with ISE Webpack from Xilinx. It's proprietary software. There is no free FPGA software available now, unfortunately. I hope someone will develop it someday. But there is a Linux version, and it's pretty good quality if you use it in command line. Graphical user interface has some very inconvenient bugs sometimes. But in command line, it's okay. It's heavy, it uses a lot of disk space, it's slow, but in the end, it gets the job done. For the software development, as I said, the CPU is supported by the GCC compiler. You can compile C on even C++. I haven't tried C++, but yeah, I'm not sure if it works. And the patch for supporting Lattice Micro32 has been put into the upcoming GCC 4.5, which means that you will not need a patch anymore for compiling software for Miltimist. And for debugging, I have made some nice terminal programs that can download the software from the serial port, which speeds up debugging software development a lot. So, in conclusion, I would say that the wide availability of FPGAs open new fields for DIY hackers, hobbyists. One of the fields, high-speed embedded computing and its applications. I have presented a couple of high-performance design techniques. I didn't invent them. They are everywhere in the computer industry, but you seldom hear from them because most of the time they are covered by patents, industrial secrets, or everything. So you never really heard of them. And the biggest problem also was that if you wanted to build a chip, it's very expensive, and FPGAs were also expensive until recently, so you could not really test and experiment with high-speed logic. So, well, you could not really learn from it. But now if you take an FPGA board like this, you can really experiment a lot and figure out all these things means in practice. So thanks for your attention. If you want some more information, you can check out the website. You can get the documented source code, which has GPL v3 license. You can get binary kits, which has, precompiled stuff for FPGA boards. So if you have a supported FPGA board like this one, you can just flash into it, and you will get it running in a few seconds or minutes. You have mailing lists if you want to stay tuned. You can edit the wiki. There is a list of contributions if you want to help a little bit with projects. You can find project news on the blog as well. And of course, these slides are also online. Now, before I switch to the questions, I will just make a short demonstration of the system. So I just connect this FPGA connector to the board. So I will start UC Linux. I hope it works. Okay. Yeah, that's the splash screen. So now it's reading the CF card. It's loading the kernel and the initial RAM disk. And it should boot in a few seconds. Yeah, good. Now it's loading the RAM disk. There you go. Now you have free software running on free hardware. You can check out the uname, LM32 processor. CPU info is also nice. Basically everything is working. You have virtual consoles as well if you want to do some multitasking.
Does it have Ethernet?
What?
Ethernet?
Not yet. Coming. Now I have a lot of problems with linking things with UC Lab C, so I cannot have networking running. CPU usage should go up. Yeah, 99%. That's basically a Linux. I have made some video effect.